I want to talk about equities for a moment because you have a lot of equities under your purview also. We've heard obviously equities have been flying the past week or so, and the forecasts keep going up. So Evercore ISI's Julian Emanuel says we could see 6,600 for the S&P 500 by the end of June, end of next June. We talked to Ed Yardeni on the show yesterday. He says 7,000 by the end of 2025. Do those numbers make sense to you?
So, listen, I don't love the multiple of equities. I think you're counting on a fair amount of growth, but something has evolved. If you believe, equities, there are two things that drive equities higher, and I think will drive them higher. I don't love the multiple. I'm long. I use a lot of convexity in my book using options, and we've actually, including the last couple of days, when volatility comes down so much, like we're rolling some call options at 11 and 12 volatility. That's like nirvana for a manager. If you can create your equity in a more convex structure, that is nirvana. So I'm long, and listen, I think what happens is there are two things at play. One, I think the multiple's high, but if you think the E in PE is going to be significantly higher, you get that multiple to a reasonable level, and we talked about the amount of spend on infrastructure. Listen, we could debate small cap, mid cap. I think the places that are going to spend in this space and the revenue and the capex driving that revenue is pretty impressive. The second thing that I think people underestimate, the technicals are crazy for equities.
Crazy good?
Crazy good. And I know what you're talking about in your show. You think about today, there's $9 trillion in global money market funds, there's $23 trillion in included deposits, some of that's pledged. And then you think about the amount of money that comes in a 401k, wealth, salary, X% goes into equities, and there's no sellers. And by the way, the big companies buy back $1 trillion of their stock. So you shrink the denominator because they're buying back a bunch of their stock, and there's no sellers. Like when there was an IPO, people were like, oh my God, there's an IPO. Well, relative to the size of the markets, there's nothing. There's who's the natural seller? And I've learned over my career, the technicals win. Even if you believe in the fundamentals, the technicals win more, and that is super powerful. People want the multiple, myself included, want the multiple lower. But boy, it's pretty hard. If there's no egregious piece of news, geopolitical, et cetera, the natural migration is to higher prices.